Hello, I am Xarkun, this is World of Warships Legends, and today we've got a look at the new premium Tier 7 American battleship, Massachusetts. That's the reward for the current ongoing Big Mamie campaign after you complete 120 milestones, or buy it outright, as I've seen a couple people have already done. I'll say right off the bat that I think this is probably going to become my very favorite American battleship in the game. We're going to take a look at my commander setup, my mod selection, the armor viewer on the Massachusetts before we jump into some gameplay, talk about the stats, and talk about how the ship plays. So, without further ado, let's look at my commander. I'm using Optimus Prime, rank 11, and you'll notice this is a secondary build. More on that in a little bit. If you don't have Optimus Prime, I would recommend using Lee as the secondary build. You will want to build this for secondaries. Mark my words. Alright, and then we're going to go to the mod selection now. Got the secondary mod in the first slot, propulsion in the second, and I believe that is the secondary reload mod in the fourth slot. Nothing is in the third slot because, as you can see, I am a little bit short on silver, and I can live without that RGA mod for a little bit. Saves me 2 million silver right now, at least till I get the ship back after I grind the campaign. Here's the armor viewer, though. This is nothing too deviant, I guess, from your typical American battleship armor. Both the Massachusetts and Alabama are South Dakota class battleships, and they have virtually, from what I can tell, the same armor scheme. 32 millimeters on the bow and stern, meaning it cannot be overmatched by 16-inch guns. Only the Yamato can overmatch it. 32 millimeters on the deck over the bow and stern as well. Interesting, though, the deck armor in the center of the ship, 38 millimeters, which should offer it a little bit of protection from light cruiser high explosive spam, provided that those shells actually hit the center deck armor, which, is perhaps a little bit unlikely, given that that superstructure up there coated in blue is quite massive and only 19 millimeters. So, obviously, this ship can take a lot of damage into the superstructure from high explosive or armor piercing, much like any of the other American battleships. Now, if we want to take a look at the Citadel, we will notice that it is pretty much underwater here, so it's not highly exposed. That doesn't mean it isn't accessible. This ship can be citadeled if it's giving too much broadside, just like the Alabama or the Iowa. Although at closer ranges, it may be a little bit more difficult to hit the Citadel. But, don't give broadside in this thing. You'll get hurt pretty badly. So there's a look at the armor viewer. We're going to jump into the game now. We're going to be on Sleeping Giant Domination Mode. I should say right off the bat that the stats on the Massachusetts and Alabama are pretty much virtually the same. They are the same class of battleship. The minor variations are probably mostly due to my commander selection, and they come in the hit points count and some minuscule variations on the maneuverability characteristics, as well as the HE, or rather AP Alpha Strike, that is influenced by some skills on Sims, who I am using on the Alabama. In any case, the Massachusetts has 66,300 hit points, which puts it in the realm of the Alabama. The Alabama has slightly more, only due to the fact that I have Sims on there. Massachusetts has 46% torpedo damage reduction. Very nice, very helpful against torpedoes. Quite strong, not quite as strong as the Alabama's 49%, but stronger than most other battleships at the tier. It's got 9 406mm main guns, or 16-inch guns. There are 3 turrets with 3 guns each, 2 on the front, 1 on the back, much like the Alabama and the Iowa. They fire out to a range of 17 kilometers. They reload in 30 seconds, 37.5 second turret traverse time, which is nice and manageable. 13,100 maximum AP shell damage potential, a little bit lower than the Alabama, again because of my commander choice, and 5,700 max HE shell damage with a 36% chance to start fire. Fairly run-of-the-mill. Obviously, the AP is what it's all about. Maneuverability characteristics on this thing, though, are quite excellent. 27.5 knot top speed, incredibly tight 710 meter turning circle. You'll see that in play here as we sort of snake through this collection of islands, almost like we are a cruiser. 15.7 second rudder shift time, fairly responsive for a battleship. You'll notice, though, that the secondaries are going off on the Fletcher, 8 kilometers out there. The secondaries are what really sets this ship apart from the Alabama. They both have the same number of secondary guns and the same caliber. They have 20 127mm secondary guns, 10 on each side of the ship, in 5 turrets on each side with 2 guns in each turret. So essentially, 10 secondary guns on the side of the ship is basically equal to strapping 2 Fletchers onto either side of the ship. Essentially, you got 4 Fletchers firing from the flanks of the Massachusetts. These secondaries, with the Porcupine skill on Optimus Prime and a rank 16 Franz von Hipper as inspiration, range out to 10 kilometers, which is by far and away much longer range than is achievable on any other American battleship. That's why I say you want to build these 4 secondaries. The secondary guns reload in 4.8 seconds. I think they pretty much fire exclusively high explosive, and they have a maximum high explosive alpha strike of 1800 with a 5% fire chance. In my experience, I've played about 10 games or so in the Massachusetts. The secondaries are quite accurate in comparison to something like the Bismarck. But on the other hand, the Bismarck's secondaries do get to enjoy the German characteristics for high explosive penetration, where you take the shell caliber and divide by 4 to figure out what the HE shells can penetrate. On the Massachusetts, those secondaries get to divide by 6, much like most of the high explosive shells in the game. So they may not be able to penetrate as much armor as the Bismarck's secondaries can, but they can get close to the range of the Bismarck secondaries, and I feel like they're slightly more accurate. They're quite useful, particularly against enemy destroyers. I don't think we're going to get to see them in action against one throughout the course of this game, but there will be a section where we are scoring some nice hits on a battleship's superstructure. We hit that Azuma out there, by the way, for 2 citadels, so actually, look, we are hitting that Fletcher with the secondaries, and you can see that when they hit, they're scoring damage pretty much every time, upwards of 1,000 damage, quite effective at chewing up destroyers and lightly armored cruisers. We take the Fletcher out with the main guns, though. And as I was saying about the main guns, I don't have accuracy spec'd into this ship at all. I'm not even using Aiming Systems Mod 1 in the first slot. I'm using no inspirations that increase the accuracy and no commander skills on Optimus Prime that increase the accuracy, because you don't need to do it. If you want to spec into accuracy on the Iowa or the Alabama. Spec into secondaries on this ship. It gives it a much different sort of flavor of playstyle. It excels at these kind of mid-range brawls. It's incredibly maneuverable. Much like the Alabama, it allows you to change direction, switch things up, turn around very quickly, avoid torpedoes. It's just wonderful. I love how maneuverable this thing is. And these secondaries, as you can see, they're chewing away at that Odin's superstructure over the mountain there. They're hitting each time and doing damage each time. They've started only one fire throughout the course of the match so far, but, you know, that's fine. And we take the Odin down for our second kill of the game. As far as how you're supposed to play this ship, again, I think it's sort of a mid-range artillery platform with very hard-hitting American battleship caliber AP. Essentially, you're getting the same thing here as you would get on the Alabama, and you get the secondaries as kind of a bonus. It's just a very interesting American battleship. It's a nice sort of fresh face in the line of American battleship premiums, and I think you're definitely going to want to grind out this Big Mamie campaign in order to get it. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's a very, very fun ship to play, and I think a very rewarding ship to play as well. As you can see, we've been on this flank for pretty much the entire duration of this map, squaring off against all the ships here, and we've killed every single one that we've encountered, up to 104,000 damage and 3 kills. Obviously, this thing is very effective at blasting cruisers, particularly Azumas. There we go with another big hit on that Azuma. Our secondaries are popping off in his direction. They're not really scoring any damaging hits on his armor because, again, they are pretty small caliber, so they are going to have a hard time penetrating him. But occasionally, if they hit up into the superstructure there, they are going to score some damaging hits, which is quite nice. Azuma is turning broadside, so obviously he's going to be going back to port pretty quickly. And we're up to 4 kills with 130,000 damage. One Azuma is left in front of us, so we are going to go for the Kraken Unleashed here. As I said at the beginning of this video, I think the Massachusetts is basically going to become my favorite American battleship. I already really liked the Alabama, even over the Iowa, due mostly in part to its excellent maneuverability characteristics, and the Massachusetts shares those characteristics, which means I am inclined to really like it. Plus it has the added bonus of these secondaries, which just makes it an incredibly fun ship. Again, if you do not have Optimus Prime, I would highly recommend you use Lee as your commander for this ship. Use the Porcupine skill and put Hipper as one of the inspirations. The campaign is long and arduous. There's the Kraken Unleashed, by the way. With 120 milestones in the campaign, obviously it's going to take a long time to grind, 6 weeks. That means you have plenty of time to accumulate promotion orders to put them into Lee if you don't already have him at a decent level. So that is what I would recommend you do. I think you definitely don't want to miss this ship. You want to grind the Big Mamie campaign, and you want to bump Lee up or Optimus Prime up if you have him, to use him on this ship because it is incredibly fun. 5 kills, Kraken Unleashed, 2,500 base XP, and 160,000 damage. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.